Live from the Parks family living room. Take two, this time with the camera.
So, hi everybody. I wanted to introduce you to our dog, Josie. Working with animals is tough. So this is her. And today we're going to be reading a book about a dog. It's called Floaty, and it's written by John Himmelman, and he's the person who wrote Chickens to the Rescue. Floaty. If you want to see. It's for Jimmy, who doesn't float, but jumps real high. Mr. Raisin lived alone in a little house. Inside that little house, he loved to sew. Mr. Raisin didn't like anything else, only sewing. One morning, he found a basket at his front door. It had a note attached that read, "All yours, too much trouble, good luck." Mr. Raisin brought the basket inside. Blah, it was empty. Whiff, said something from above Mr. Raisin. Up from above, Mr. Raisin looked up. A puppy was stuck to the ceiling. "Get down from there," shouted Mr. Raisin. He nudged the dog with his broom. The dog slid across the ceiling and into the other room. Mr. Raisin climbed onto a chair and grabbed the dog. "Outside with you," he said. He opened the door. He was about to let the dog go, but he stopped. "You'll just float away, won't you?" Mr. Raisin brought the dog inside. "This doesn't mean you're staying," he said to the dog. "But I guess dogs need to eat, even annoying ceiling dogs." He put a bowl of cornflakes on the floor. "Whiff," said the dog from the ceiling. "Oh, you can't come down?" Mr. Raisin tossed the cornflakes one at a time into the air. "You probably need water too," he said. The dog floated to the front door. "Whiff," he barked. "Blah," complained Mr. Raisin. "I have to take you for a walk too?" "Funny balloon," said Agnes Withers. "Not a balloon, a dog," barked Mr. Raisin. "Your kite needs a tail," said Mrs. Poots. "Not a kite, a dog," grunted Mr. Raisin. "There goes nutty Mr. Raisin," said Mrs. Stringle. "Blah," said Mr. Raisin. He went back inside. Mr. Raisin wasn't used to having company, but the dog stayed out of his way most of the time. At night, he was a terrible blanket hog. But as time went by, Mr. Raisin thought less and less about getting rid of the dog. "I guess you'll need a name," he said. "I will call you Floaty." Mr. Raisin chuckled at the silly name. He hardly ever chuckled. One morning when they were out for a walk, the leash snapped. Floaty floated away. As Floaty disappeared into the clouds, Mr. Raisin realized how much he loved his dog. Floaty floated for days and nights. Back at home, Mr. Raisin sent balloons up carrying food in case his dog floated by. The food never found Floaty, but he didn't go hungry. Mr. Raisin moved to his roof. He searched the skies day and night for his little dog. Floaty floated farther and farther away. Mr. Raisin climbed down from the roof. Floaty dreamed about home. Mr. Raisin sat in his chair and sewed. One night, a big storm came along. Lightning and thunder exploded all around the dog. Just then, a voice called from overhead, "Up here, Floaty!" Mr. Raisin lowered his freshly sewn hot air balloon and scooped up his dog. "Blah," he said. "You're not too much trouble. You're just the right amount of trouble." I hope you liked that. Have a good night.
And remember, if your dog floats, always take an umbrella on a walk.